first start off by saying for most of my life, the mirror and I have had a very complicated relationship. Every morning I would look into it and I would let it decide how I was supposed to feel that day. If the lighting was good, great, we were best of friends. If the lighting was bad, forget about it. Suddenly I looked like a strung out mob wife entering a witness protection program. Hi, I'm Erica Deligne, and I know what you may or may not be thinking, but no, I'm not a mob wife. I am a fashion stylist and creative consultant by trade, but beyond the wardrobe and the work, more importantly, I am a woman who's had to completely redefine beauty, femininity, and confidence. This story, my friends, is not about fashion, don't worry. It's a story about freedom, freedom from societal pressure, and the power of making informed choices about our own bodies. I believe we live in a society that teaches women to edit themselves until they fit someone else's version of worthy. But beauty that depends on permission will always keep you chasing. And one day I stopped running. In 2021, at age 38, I heard 4 words that split my life into a before and after. You have breast cancer. I was diagnosed with stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma, and in the beginning, everything becomes so urgent. Appointments, scans, decisions you never imagined making. And then something shifts. The conversation moves from saving your life to rebuilding your body. I met with 2 different surgeons, and both presented me with the same options: lumpectomy with radiation, single mastectomy, double mastectomy with implant reconstruction, as I was only a candidate for implant reconstruction, and reconstruction was spoken like the common choice made by women to keep symmetry of the breasts. The unspoken assumption was clear. Of course I'd want to keep my breasts. And I'll be honest, gravity was starting to weigh down the girls a little bit, so I thought maybe this is my moment for a little upgrade. So initially I did decide to reconstruct with implants. But something in my gut just did not sit right with that decision, because I had heard about breast implant illness, and I had seen women and celebrities in the news explanting due to unexplained health issues. So I started researching on my own, and I joined patient-led communities where hundreds of thousands of women were sharing stories about chronic fatigue, brain fog, autoimmune symptoms, hair loss, rashes, joint pain, all these symptoms that appeared after implants. But what stood out to me wasn't just the symptoms, it was the pattern. Again and again, women would report, and studies confirm, that after explant surgery, removal of implants, their symptoms either improved or completely disappeared. And that stopped me cold in my tracks, because I remember asking myself this very valid question, and I still ask this question today. How are these implant devices that make regular, healthy women sick being offered to women whose bodies are already immunocompromised? So the nerd inside of me did more research, and I learned that breast implants were never tested long-term before being widely used. Instead, they were tested on a dog named Esmeralda for just a few short weeks in 1962 before being placed into women. Soon after, they quickly became common and were grandfathered in under the 1976 Medical Device Amendment, allowing them to stay on the market while safety data was being collected. But by the early 1990s, thousands of women were coming forward saying they were sick. So the Food and Drug Administration stepped in and temporarily banned silicone breast implants to the public for cosmetic use. However, they were still allowed for breast reconstruction use to breast cancer patients. Later, when laws guaranteed insurances to cover the cost of reconstruction after mastectomy, implant devices returned and received FDA approval in the early 2000s. Since then, there has been over 20 years of patient tracking research gathered. The FDA has made multiple updates to help warn patients of the systemic risks associated with breast implant illness, highlighting all the symptoms of, there's 50 symptoms of breast implant illness, as well as a rare cancer of the immune system on their website. But many surgeons still choose not to acknowledge breast implant illness, and they leave their patients uninformed about these risks. While researching, I also learned the complexity of reconstructive surgery and how different it is when compared to a regular breast augmentation. It's often multiple surgeries, revisions, exchanges, and sometimes infections that last over years. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good makeover, but at this point, reconstruction was sounding like a whole renovation project that likely wasn't going to go the way I wanted it to. In fact, a major JAMA surgery study reports an overall complication rate of 33%. That, my friends, is not a rare occurrence. That is 1 in 3 women who reconstruct. I wasn't afraid of scars. I was afraid of never returning to my normal baseline. And that's when I discovered women who had chosen something different, women who had gone flat. Through the Fierce Flat Forward community, I read story after story of women who felt unprepared, uninformed, and exhausted from endless surgeries, some undergoing 10 to 15 surgeries just to try to keep their reconstructed breasts. And that's when I realized something profound. For so many of these women, reconstruction wasn't restoring peace, it was extending trauma. And my biggest fear was wondering if the same would happen to me. So a week before my surgery, I would start to stand naked in front of the mirror, and I would cover my breasts with my forearm like this. And I would ask myself one question: what matters more, my health or having breasts? And then one quiet morning, I remember this like yesterday, I was lying in bed watching the sunlight glisten through the trees. And that's when a quiet voice came to me and said, "If you go flat, you will be fine." Instantly, my body felt at ease. I no longer had fear. I no longer had anxiety over the future. I just felt at peace. And that's when I understood something that I had never fully grasped before, that beauty doesn't come what's added to the body, it comes from the peace within it. So I chose to go flat. Not because I'm brave or because I'm bold, but you can call me those things if you want, I'll take them. But very much so because I had found peace within. But what shocked me the most about my whole journey is that neither surgeon ever presented going flat or an aesthetic flat closure to me. I had to bring it to the table. And since then, I've heard from hundreds of women all around the world through my platform, Delightfully Deligne, who weren't told it was an option either. Some even begged to go flat and were denied. In fact, studies confirm 25% of women experience what's called flat denial, where surgeons will advise against going flat or leave extra skin in the surgery room just in case a woman changes her mind. In the UK, women experience even more gatekeeping. According to a Flat Friends UK survey, many women are asked to undergo psychosocial evaluations just in order to remove a healthy breast for symmetry after losing one to breast cancer. And in the UK, only 32% of patients are informed about the option of going fully flat. In Italy, breast reconstruction is such an integral part of their cancer treatment process, so much that it is covered by their public healthcare system, with many articles referring to immediate reconstruction as essential for women facing the disease. One article specifically stated how it is believed women would face a significant psychological impact and would feel defeated in life if no immediate reconstruction were to occur after a mastectomy. I did learn that Italian women can refuse reconstruction. However, it's often met with resistance from their surgeons, taken aback by their choice, and refer them to seek psychological counseling first. My friends, this is not about choice. It's about control. And the underlying belief is this, is that women won't feel whole without breasts. To me, that belief is not medicine. It's a patriarchal beauty standard, wearing a white coat. Let's be honest, going flat has pros and cons, but most of the so-called cons are rooted in social discomfort. But the pros, faster recovery, fewer surgeries, less complications, no foreign objects in the body, and for many women like me, greater long-term peace. According to a 2021 surgical oncology survey, 75% of women who go flat report satisfaction with their quality of life, while an even more recent 2025 survey reports a 92% satisfaction rate. Going flat doesn't just change a body, it changes a belief system. It forces a question our culture avoids. If a woman's breasts are gone, is her worth gone too? And the answer, loudly, is no. Going flat rewires beauty. It challenges the idea that women must be restored in order to be acceptable. It's a reminder that our bodies are not public property, nor are they projects for someone else's comfort or pleasure. When I chose flat with intention, I stopped performing normal, and I started redefining it. And I can honestly stand here today and say that peace looks better on me than perfection ever did. Obviously, I still love a killer blazer and a bold lip. I'm a stylist, not a saint. But beauty stopped being something that I chased, and it became something that I honored. I started to see it in the way that I carried myself, in the strength of my choices, in the peace that replaced performance. Because when you stop chasing the world's version of beauty, you finally make space for your own. And this conversation is more important now than ever before, because at the end of 2020, breast cancer surpassed lung cancer and became the leading global cancer. 2.3 million women worldwide were diagnosed with breast cancer in 2022. And in the United States, 1 in 8 women will receive a breast cancer diagnosis at some point in their lifetime. I want every woman facing a mastectomy to hear this clearly. You have options. You deserve a full, unbiased conversation, one rooted in health, honesty, and respect. Mound reconstruction may be right for you. Going flat may be right for you. But whatever you choose, let it be guided by this: your health, your values, your peace, and not what you think society expects of you. Because your body doesn't need to look untouched to be worthy, it just needs to be yours. Beauty doesn't come from what we build on the outside, it comes from what we cultivate on the inside. I personally believe that true beauty emanates from the spirit. It's knowing the energy within you and trusting its guidance. When I heard those internal words, if you go flat, you will be fine, I listened, and I chose to live in harmony with my spirit. And the more I do this, the more in tune and aware I become. All of the noise of the material world sort of dissipates as awareness increases, because I realize that we are all a part of something far much greater than what can be conceived by our human eyes. And our time here is limited, but many of us often waste it living in fear or on the approval of others. Now I invite you to close your eyes and imagine a world where people see beauty from within. What do you see? When I close mine, I imagine a world where we could see each other's souls instead of bodies. A world where little girls and boys grow up knowing their worth cannot be measured by anything on the outside of them. Where we choose health over image and value our bodies for the true sacred gift that they are. In that world, surgeons would present every option with equal care and truth because health and longevity would matter more than perceived perfection. And women would make decisions not based in fear, expectation, or the need for approval, but from their own truth within. It sounds idyllic, doesn't it? Here's my invitation to you. You don't need a diagnosis to rediscover your beauty. You just need to listen to that quiet voice within, the one that has been whispering all along that you are already enough. Because when you choose from your spirit, when you choose from within, that isn't just inspired independence. That's confidence, that's freedom, that's wholeness. And that is where true beauty lives. Thank you.